Depression sucks. Anyone who's ever experienced it themselves or seen someone else go through it can know how truly dog water it can be. I've never been diagnosed professionally as depressed, but I have had a couple of extended periods in my life when I wasn't taking care of myself at all, and I had this hollow, cold feeling in my chest that only went away at night whenever I slept. Plus, I wanted to kill myself. Whether or not it was just a rush of new emotions we experience as we grow up, I don't know. But I do know is that at that time, I did have the real feeling and thoughts of questioning the importance of waking up tomorrow. And that's pretty scary. What's even scary is when you realize how many people feel the same way around you. It's not just one or two people who have things they're going through. It's damn near everyone. Today, it's not uncommon to hear people talking about how depressed they are and them taking medications for their anxiety or the chemical imbalances in their brain. But one thing I always asked myself was why? Why do I feel this way? Why do so many people feel this way? I doubt we can live in a world one day when 100% of people are completely satisfied and depression free, but why are so many people depressed, and why does it seem to be rising? Most of us are living in America or another first world country. We don't experience any true worries other than what the next meal we're going to eat is or what to post on Instagram. We don't worry if we're going to have any clean water tomorrow, if our house is going to get bombed, or if we're even going to have a safe sanitary place to sleep tonight. Most of us are living better than kings did not even a few hundred years ago, yet depression is on the rise. Why? It's so hard to find an answer to that question whenever you're going through it. But now that I'm in a much better position mentally, I can look back and start to see things much more objectively. I'm in no way professional on this, but this is just my experience and my thoughts. First, I want to clear up that there are different types of sadness. There is obvious, reasonable sadness. The passing of a family member or a breakup are obvious reasons for you to feel upset. You don't have much control over that, and I doubt anyone would shame you for it. And then there's the other type of sadness, the unreasonable one that lasts way too long, the one that doesn't seem to have one clear reason for its existence. It might be because someone is still upset over something and they have that same feeling over a long period of time, or just being sad for seemingly no reason. Being sad your girlfriend left you is understandable for a couple weeks, but messing up your life and feeling that same way 3 years later is much less forgivable. And being sad your entire life is a whole nother problem. So let's just simply call this second type of sadness depression. And this is the one that's a serious problem. Now, of course, you can be depressed if you're in a really terrible, shitty position that you cannot control. I get that, but this is about people that I assume are going to be watching this video. You're young-ish, living in America, and you're living in extreme luxury compared to 90% of people in the world right now and 99% of people to ever exist. You have access to food, water, shelter, and if you're watching this video, then you obviously have access to the internet and you're wealthier than the vast majority of the human population. You probably have a car, all your limbs, and your room is probably full of stuff. You have no real threats to your life and your belly's probably full. Yet you're depressed and unmotivated for life even though you basically have everything. So why? And one thing before I continue, because I feel like I have to make this disclosure, but I am not professional. I don't know every single thing about depression and how to find a cure for happiness, but I do have a theory. This is my opinion and my experience, so take from it what you will. My theory is that people are depressed either because 1, they're not doing shit with their lives, or 2, they're doing things they don't actually want to do. Now, this might sound kind of harsh, and it is, but hear me out. Whenever I was depressed, I wasn't doing anything with my life. I wasn't even doing the basics of being a healthy human. I wasn't working out, eating right, sleeping, being social, nothing. I was addicted to my phone and playing video games up until 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, eating junk food, depriving myself of basic sunlight, etc. And this all happened because of a breakup, when I put my all into someone else and had nothing for myself, so whenever it ended, I was alone and lost. I used this as an excuse to mess around and just become more and more depressed. I was in this state for months and maybe a couple years. I would enter this constant feedback loop of feeling bad about feeling bad about feeling bad, causing me to feel even more bad. I wasn't excited for anything anymore. Every day was feeling the same and was leading nowhere. I had no excitement for the next day, nothing to look forward to in the future, nothing but dark fog ahead with no signs of light to come. I was trying to be happy by distracting myself with things and activities I didn't actually care about. I knew what I was doing every day, but I didn't think I was worthy of more, so I stayed right where I was knowingly. And because I knew I was making myself sink lower and lower into this pit, it was another thing to add to this huge fire. And that was the choice I was making every second of the day, whether I wanted to admit it or not. And this all happened over a girl. Fucking embarrassed. I don't know about you, but I get tired of doing something repetitively over and over again, especially if I see no benefit at the end. And I remember one day I woke up feeling pretty good until I remembered that I was alive, and then that icy hollow feeling started coming back in my chest. And then I just remember sitting down and just thinking about my life. I was pissed. I was like, yo, you haven't done shit. You're not shit. And you're never going to be shit unless you change drastically. I started thinking about my life up to that point and the happy, smiling kid I once was and how he would react if he saw himself right now. I thought about myself in third person and zoomed out. I realized that I was just a person on a rock, orbiting around a sun and a galaxy cluster and a universe that's possibly infinite. And somewhere in this infinite void, I was there, sad. And then I don't know exactly how or when, but I realized that I was going to die one day. That feeling hit me harder than anything else before. My brief time alive was limited and would soon be gone. I was 18 at the time, and I realized that if I lived until I was 80, then I already used up a quarter of my existence. That realization scared me to my core. It's like what Confucius said, every man has two lives, and the second one starts when he realizes he only has one. That was the beginning of my life. I realized that everything I was doing was embarrassing, and I'm disappointing my entire bloodline acting the way I was, and I needed to change ASAP. The position that I was in, whether or not wanting to admit it, was my choice. I decided that path. Even if it was influenced, I was the one who had the final say, and I let it get to that point. If I didn't change, I would be in that exact position or worse for the rest of time. And all of that was needed just for me to get my ass up and take one step in the right direction. But the first step is the hardest. The rest become much easier after that. So step 0 into getting myself out of that position was understanding that I put myself there. And because I had the power to put myself there, I also had the ability to get myself out. And the first real step was to start taking care of myself like I actually give a damn about myself, because no one was gonna do it but me. And here's an actual first practical step that you can do if you're really down in the gutters. Open the blinds and get some sun. This is one of the first things I vividly remember doing and feeling better instantly. I didn't know it at the time, but one of the main reasons I felt so shit is because I wasn't taking care of myself at all. Wow, shocker. Take care of yourself and you start to feel better. Yes, this is obvious, but how many people actually do this? So I did the basics. I began working out again, drawing, getting some sun, changing my diet, and I started to feel better just from that. I wasn't doing all the good habits and sure slipped up a lot, but one step is infinitely better than staying where I was. Now all of this sounds good, but even though I was doing all the healthy things, I was still unhappy with my life. Why? This is where the second part of the equation comes in. The second part is why it's frustrating to a lot of people who are depressed, and whenever they tell someone that they're not feeling the best, and the person's response is, hit the gym, get more sleep, drink more water, etc. Like, yes, those are great things to do, and everyone should be doing them because it's the bare minimum, and they probably are doing them, but then why are they still so unhappy with their lives? Well, this is the part I don't see talked about much at all, because it's a hard problem to tackle, and it's very easy to ignore. It's not the fact that you're not doing the healthy things, it's that you're living a life you have no true desire to live. You're not free. To put it simply, you're not living the life that you want to. So let me explain. So during this time, I was slowly getting my shit together. I was in college, and my whole life was structured around things I didn't want to do. I had no interest in and saw no point to. Just work, school, and distract myself. Not only did I not like what I was doing, but worst of all, I didn't even know what I wanted outside of the plan I was giving. I was just doing what everyone else was doing around me, just doing things I was told to do. Every day I would wake up and just go through the motions. There was no pride in what I was doing. There was no reason I was doing these actions other than the fact that someone else set it up for me. I didn't want to do this, but I didn't even know what else I wanted. Sure, I lost weight, got healthier, and had more confidence, but my entire life, my time, my literal existence was spent doing things I had zero interest in. I knew this time was never coming back, and I was just letting it go for what? Then I hit stage 2 and applied the second part of the equation. At this point, I was taking care of myself, so I was able to sit down with my thoughts for a good minute and think about my life until I realized that the path I was on was straight donkey shit. Right? I never liked it. I'm never gonna like it. And it's gonna lead nowhere that I want to. If I kept this going, I could never be truly happy. So I had two choices: either quit the game or create my own. Another long session of staring at my ceiling made me realize that I didn't have any meaningful or purposeful direction in my life. College was something I was led to do since I was 5, and now here I was. I hated school. And out here I was paying a lot of money for school, knowing that right after this, I'll be forced to work a job and struggle the rest of my life. If I kept this up, I'll be just like everyone else, waking up to an alarm clock, going to a job I hate, struggling to make payments, being broke, unhappy, fat, having no time, maybe have 2 to 3 kids I have no time for, always focused on politics, have a 10-hour screen time, no time to be with my wife, always fighting about money, I can't buy this, can't see that, can't eat there, can't travel to that place, no sleep, and spending 50 mind-numbing hours a week at a job I can't stand until I'm 60 years old, when I might be able to retire with a few dollars to my name. Just a horrible fucking life. That's what my one chance at life would amount to. Nothing but mediocrity. Just an empty, vapid life with a couple of bites of artificial intelligence to keep you crawling to the next week. One of the biggest factors that plays into an individual's happiness is freedom. A big reason unhappy people aren't happy is because they aren't free. They're trapped. They have no control over their time or their lives. A lot of the time, it's not necessarily the actions that make people unhappy, like working and just going through life, but it's the fact that they have to do these actions. People aren't unhappy because of the job that they have, but rather because they have to go do that job. If most people don't go into work next week, they might risk losing everything they own. So the things they own and need begin controlling their life. You can't take a day off or you might lose your job. You can't call out next week or your kids might not be able to eat. You can't sleep in or you might fail your exams. You become chained to this constant never-ending treadmill. And I don't know about you, but I hate having to do something. I hate knowing that I don't have a choice in something that I do. It's like whenever you're washing dishes and then your parents tell you to go wash the dishes and then it immediately makes you not want to do it at all. Or imagine you decide to go to the gym based on your own personal decision. It's much more fun and enjoyable compared to if someone got you up and forced you to go. It's kind of like that. I realized then that I wasn't happy with my life because I was never going to be free. My life was never going to be on my terms, but instead on someone else's. I was just going to be a puppet for someone else's life where my consciousness fades away into nothing. It was at that moment I made a commitment to myself. I was going to start living for myself and only myself because the only thing I had was myself. I would no longer live my life for others because no one else is going to live my experience but me. I stopped letting others dictate my life and started to think for myself. And slowly but surely, I started to figure out my purpose and I started to become excited for my future again. I realized that all I really wanted from my life was freedom. I want to be able to experience anything and do as much as I can before my time runs out. I want to be able to do whatever I want with my life, whenever I want to do it. Once I made a plan for this goal and committed to the process, I started learning and making steps towards this goal. Then after a while, I started making actual progress towards my desired purpose. It's small, but it's more meaningful than anything else I did before. And that right there is a beautiful feeling. Probably top 3 feelings you can experience, to be honest. It's better than any video game, any Philly cheesesteak. Sitting down, making your plan, and going out and actually doing it on your terms is a feeling that is hard to describe. That's what kept the greats going. That's how we got to where we are now. That's how the things you see around us got here. Someone's undying commitment to do something great with their one trip around the stars. They decided on something and went forward with everything they had, even if it killed them. How many people have listened to what everyone else has said, lived a mediocre life, and has somehow became one of the greats? I can't think of anyone. Greatness comes from chasing something different, chasing purpose, doing something that is actually meaningful and impactful, working on something unique that can impact those around you in a positive way. That's what's gotten us this far as a species. Drive, commitment towards something in the future, building, conquering, improving our lives and those around us. Purpose. When you begin chasing your purpose, you start having this youthful fire and energy that gets you out of bed. And the progress you see within yourself and to those around you is the sweetest fruit man can sink his teeth into. People who are happiest, people you see going out and doing different things, are people driven by their purpose. Even if they don't have one, they make one up so they have something to move towards and they'll figure out the rest later. You are a human being, and the human mind hates being trapped, bored, and not doing anything. It needs to do something. It needs to be making progress. The human brain needs to be occupied with something, and what better to occupy yourself with than your purpose? Joy comes from the pursuit of a goal, not necessarily the achievement of a goal. If you've ever achieved something, you realize that once you get it, it's kind of meh, but the grinding leading up to that is the actual fun part. So what you need to do is simply find your purpose and commit to it 100%, especially if you're a young man. Also, don't get scared whenever I say find your purpose, because I know that sounds like a daunting task. Nobody knows the ultimate meaning and purpose of life. We're just here doing the best we can. Purpose can be made up and completely artificial. It's different for everybody and can change over time. But if you sit down and really think about it, you'll be surprised what you can come up with. This is how I beat depression. Progress towards a personal purpose. Without that, I don't see how many people can be happy and fulfilled, and I can certainly see why so many people are depressed. Think about it, right? If you have food, water, etc., and you're a healthy person who takes care of themselves, and you're fully committed towards a personal goal that you decided on, and you see yourself making progress towards this goal daily, how can you be unhappy? Or at the very least, would you be happier? Especially if that goal can help out others around you and support you financially. If you get all those boxes ticked, I think it would be extremely hard to be depressed. And that's what everyone seems to lack. If you ask majority of people what their purpose is, what they actually genuinely want to do, with their one chance at life, and if they're living in accordance to that purpose every day, or at least as much as they can, they'll look at you crazy, or they'll try to change the subject immediately. Because most people are lost and distracted. They'd rather stay lost and in hell because it's predictable, and predictability is a lot more comfortable than the fear of the unknown that comes with change and progress. Most people are following a plan that was given to them that they have no interest in and spend every single day building someone else's dream life. I believe that people lack purpose today because the only way to find your purpose in this life is to really focus and meditate on it. This is a clear problem because most people can't even read a book for 5 minutes anymore without reaching for their phones. So how can they expect to change their entire life? This new age of technology has softened us up so much that we can't work towards anything meaningful longer than 10 seconds. The best advice I can give you is to try your best to remove yourself from the world and all of its distractions so you can stop and stare at yourself in the mirror until you figure out what you actually want from your life. It's going to be difficult, boring, and uncomfortable, but if you're already depressed currently, then what else do you have to lose? You can achieve much more than you think in your life, but you need to actually do the actions it takes and stop being stuck in your own head. Greatness is a choice you make every second of the day. Make up your purpose. Just make a goal greater than the one that everyone else is giving you. Make it personal, something unique, something you're interested in based on your own reasons and life experiences. Another really important thing about your emotions is realizing that emotions fluctuate and are in constant motion. Feeling sad, angry, or whatever emotion we slap a negative label onto is normal, is what makes us human. We need to feel these negative emotions to be able to experience the positive ones. Even if you feel an emotion, you can decide how you act on that emotion. It's whenever you try to start to hold on to happiness, problems come. You typically can't control how something affects you the instant it happens because you're a human, not a robot. But you do have control over how you act in response to that emotion in the future. If you went through childhood trauma, you can either use that as an excuse to fall or as fuel to become great. The choice, be it a difficult one, is yours to make. I always just try to see emotions for what they are. Chemicals and electrical signals firing in our brains. Nothing more, nothing less, they just are. And once you realize that that's all they are, then you can decide how you act in response to them. You can ignore them, act on them, or something in the middle. The choice is yours, it will always be yours. So if you are feeling down, then go outside, get some sun, work out, drink water, find your purpose, find a way to monetize it, and reach true autonomy and freedom in your life so you're able to focus on building meaningful, deep relationships with those around you. Then come back and tell me you're still depressed. This might be a controversial take to say, but I believe that today we have an obsession with depression. Once again, if you've truly been through some horrible, traumatic event, that's different, but most people haven't. Even if you have, you can still decide how you move forward from that moment. I find it hard to believe that this many people are truly depressed in first world countries when we're living better than 99% of people ever. I believe the cause of this depression is because of what I said earlier, but also because we're literally obsessed with depressing behaviors. Every day, we're showered in activities that make us more and more depressed, yet we keep doing them. Almost every aspect of life now is set up for temporary highs rather than long-term fulfillment, which is causing this huge spike in depression and isolation. The world has become extremely comfortable these days, too comfortable, and this comfort is making us trapped. Almost anything you want and need can be accessed instantly. You no longer need to hunt and grow your own food. You can walk into a store and have access to foods that kings centuries ago would be salivating at. You have access to all human information available at your fingertips. You can see, know, and hear anything within seconds with colorful pixels that can literally display anything. You can drive anywhere, and you can have access to anywhere across the planet if you plan correctly. You have access to medicine and antibiotics in case you get sick. Almost every single need to survive is easier than ever to obtain. And now with all the new technology today, you never have to step outside. You can work from home. You don't even need a car anymore with Uber. You can get anything you want shipped right to your door, including groceries with Amazon. Think about how weird that is. It's cool, it's really cool. I think technology is amazing, but it's also weird. There's never been a time like this in history. Making certain aspects of life easier is a good thing. It's what humans have been doing since the very beginning, but it does come with some negative effects. We've become soft. We no longer want to struggle for anything. Most of us do the bare minimum to get by, and that's it. It's the easiest time in history to just survive and get by. One of the biggest changes, and in my opinion the most influential, is the internet. Now, the internet is amazing and comes with so many benefits I can't even describe, but we cannot ignore the huge downside of it. While you have access to unlimited information, you at the same time have access to unlimited stimulation. The rise of TikTok and short-form content has destroyed our attention spans. We can see and get dopamine so fast now that it makes accomplishing boring long-term goals almost unbearable. In your pocket, you have access to an unlimited pleasure machine that learns from what you like and improves upon itself to give you more and more stimulating content. Almost everything you see online either causes you to feel depressed and anxious, or it is just a distraction from the real world. Ask yourself, how many things do you see online that are genuinely helping you? What's the ratio of good content versus useless content? 100 to 1? 1,000 to 1? Maybe? So my thing is this, right? If everyone has mental illness, then isn't mental illness normal? And it doesn't need to be treated, but more managed? Like, we should only medicate people who have an extreme or abnormal case, right? Obviously. But hear me out. Like, if it gets to the point when 50% of the population is said to have extreme anxiety that needs to be medicated, and right now it's at 30%, then doesn't that stop it from being an extreme case and just something we just live with? Like, for example, 100% of people get headaches, but that doesn't mean that every time we get a headache, we should take medications for it, right? Unless it obviously becomes terrible and really bad and every logical solution has failed. But even before we medicate, we should try to use common sense to try to fix the headache, like drinking water or getting some rest before taking pills. Can't the same thing be said about depression and anxiety? Like, if 1/3 of people, which is a lot of people, have anxiety, isn't that just life then? And before taking medications for anxiety and depression, should we do the basics before? Because for what I know, pills just mask the problem. They don't solve it. Like, how many people need to have it before it's just like, oh, well, everyone has it. That's life. Yeah, it sucks, but maybe happiness and sadness is an economy to be managed, not a problem to be solved. So if so, then maybe we all have depression and anxiety and things we deal with, and that's just being human. But because we want to feel special, we talk about it so much now that it becomes a bigger issue than it actually is. Just because we're a little sad or we feel down or feel a little anxiety, we have to hop on medications and do all these different things. Maybe anxiety and depression isn't something that needs to be fixed, but something that's a response that the body gives you when it knows you're not doing shit. Maybe people are depressed because they're not doing what humans have been doing for centuries, but instead we're locked in our rooms in the dark, staring at screens for hours a day, not doing anything with our lives. And maybe the body just feels sad about that. Maybe. Anyways, on social media, the more depressed you are, or the sadder your sob story is, the more validation you get. That validation is easier and faster than going out and changing your life for the better. So people just stay the same and take the easy route. Why go out and do something worthwhile while people will make you feel better for staying in your comfort zone? In some cases, it can be a positive thing. It's good to know you're not alone and have people support your progress, but only if you use that as a fuel source to actually make progress and not as an excuse to stay where you are. This comfort-oriented lifestyle is nice, but it's not sustainable. The longer we live like this, the harder it becomes to escape. The more stimulation we get, the more we need to reach that same high. It's never ending. Technology is getting better and better, and the world is becoming more and more comfortable. We can no longer sit alone and think about what we're doing with our lives because it's not as stimulating or as interesting as flashing pixels on a screen. We're living in a world where we always need to be connected, up to date, and keep up with the latest trends. We're constantly seeing skewed political views online, making us fearful of the outside world and have wars in comment sections. We're constantly notified about anything and everything happening across the world that we have no control over. And these companies are constantly feeding you negative and controversial content because they know that it's more engaging and keeps your attention longer. Almost nothing on social media is helpful to you in any way. People's whole lives are lived on screens now. Seriously, think about it, right? I know you've seen posts that have like hundreds of thousands or millions of likes. Try to picture that many people. Just try. Just imagine a whole field of people looking down at their phones, swiping and scrolling, looking at the exact same fucking post. The scariest part for me is when you realize how pointless it is and how long we've been doing this. People aren't even enjoying themselves online anymore. They're not having fun. They're not laughing. Most of the time, they're staring blankly at a screen with a deep exhale every couple of hours like a zombie. Next time you're scrolling for hours on end, alone in your room, picture yourself in third person and just realize how sad it is. A human being scrolling on a phone for hours upon end, looking at the same useless shit as everyone else. I think depression and mental illness is becoming a personality trait. Most people don't have anything good in their lives and want to feel special. It's at the core of all of us. So to feel special, they join the depressed group because it's low-hanging fruit and it's better than finding out who you are and what mark you want to leave on this world before you die. It's much easier to put a label on yourself, give in, and blame the world for your problems instead of getting your shit together. Why improve your life when you can point the finger and get likes while you do it? I've literally seen people joke about their depression and anxiety, or they're taking medications for it. Like, some people wear it like a badge of honor. I'm no longer on TikTok or Instagram, and I was never on Twitter, but whenever I briefly return or I see someone else on it, I can see why you're depressed. It does nothing for you but compare yourself to others and just see shitty parts of the world on the news, or it's just a complete waste of time. And don't get me wrong, TikTok and Instagram, it's funny as hell, but when you realize that 3 hours have passed and you can't even remember the last 4 posts you just saw, it makes it much less worth it. And then when you realize how many people do this, how long they're doing this for, stacked up against a million other things, it's just like, damn. The biggest problem with this isn't gonna change, because it's just how the human brain is wired. People are addicted to this comfortable life and they're not going to give it up. Why would they? I mean, it makes sense. I get why people do it. Hell, I did it. It's very comfortable and predictable, but there's nothing on the inside. It's hollow. It's a constant mask we're putting on, trying to pretend that everything is okay when everything on the inside is in ruins. The only way to reverse this is to have a huge social shift towards meaning and purpose and a healthy lifestyle, but that's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Why chase purpose when you can feel good instantly, whenever you want, as much as you want? Just try to go up to people and tell them to improve their lives and they will ignore you, but then put a shiny toy in their face and their eyes will light up. I believe that seeing or hearing about something all the time can start to affect you even without you realizing it. If you constantly hear about depression, anxiety, how terrible the world is, and how all your friends have some form of mental illness, and that's all you take in every day, you're going to start being affected by it at some point. We've become so addicted to eating shitty foods, living unhealthy lifestyles, and consuming mind-numbing, useless content for hours upon end. Some people even know that they're wasting their time, but they continue. They know they're not getting anything from it, yet they're scrolling. And then they comment, haha, just put my phone down, scroll. They're literally obsessed with being depressed. The vast majority of the time that we spend on the internet is to distract ourselves rather than using it as a tool to improve some area of our life. The internet is one of, if not the most impactful inventions in history, yet people use it to waste their time instead of improving it. The average person spends 7 hours per day online. 7 hours. That's 50 hours per week. That's 2,600 hours per year, or around 108 days per year. 1/3 of a year looking at pixels. People are watching hundreds of billions of hours of useless, soulless content per year. People are online more than they sleep. And then you combine this with the fact that most people aren't shit, have no skills, no purpose, no accomplishments, no self-discipline, a phone addiction, no real community, no nothing really, and have a longing of wanting to feel special. The rise of depression starts to make sense. If you're not aligned with your purpose, then I get why you're depressed, because you're not a human. Without purpose, you're a slave robot working a way to build someone else's life against your will. You begin going through the motions, trying to slither your way through this thing we call life. Oh hey, the world is shit, everything is on fire, and everyone online is prettier, richer, and happier than you. Oh wait, are you feeling a bit sad and stressed? Are you feeling a human emotion that every human in history has felt ever? Hey, instead of getting your shit together, let's give you some generic advice without looking into what actually makes a human tick. Let's get you on some pills and start making jokes online with all your friends about how depressed you guys are. Don't sit down and think about your life. Don't question your existence and try to fathom the reality that you're going to die one day and don't have time to be wasting. Here's a burger and fries. Here's a new social media app. Here's a new shiny phone that does the same thing the past 5 did, but now you can scroll 15% faster. Also, there's a war going on halfway across the world that we're all going to pretend we care about. Here, quick, change your profile picture to make it change and show you're really down for the cause. Settle for mediocrity. It's his fault. It's her fault. It's the government's fault. It's everyone's fault but your own. It's not like you have more tools and opportunities than anyone ever. No. Because not like there's ever been someone else who's ever been in a worse position with less time, less opportunity, and done more than you. Nah, blame your skin color, blame your family, blame everything else but yourself. Problems get fixed by bitching and moaning about them instead of fixing them at their core. That always fixes your issues, right? That's why you're living the life that you want to right now. People will say they're depressed and have to take medications when they're not eating right, they're not sleeping, they have a 9-hour screen time, no real friends, and don't know what the fuck they want to do with their lives and haven't done anything that they can be proud of since they were 4 years old. It is your responsibility to change your life. No one's going to come in and do it for you but you. You cannot control anything except for your thoughts, actions, and how you react to the world around you. If you are depressed, I'm sorry to hear that because it sucks and I know how it feels, but I want you to know that you do have the power to change your situation, but you have to be willing. And you can sit there and be like, well, it's hard in society and corporations, but at the end of the day, none of that matters because you are the one suffering with an empty hole in your chest. The only thing that matters is you and what you do about the situation. You need to be able to grab life by the balls and steer your own life, and putting that power into someone else does nothing for you. Nothing. Everyone is dealt different cards, but you still need to play the best game you can with the cards you were given. Depression sucks, but it can be overcome. And once again, I am not a doctor, and if you really do have a chemical imbalance in your brain, then seek professional help. But I am not buying that everyone who says they have depression actually has depression. Maybe, just maybe, they're not doing shit with their lives. Maybe you just have an obsession with depression. So before saying you're depressed, stop. Take care of yourself like you're actually someone worth caring for. Do the basics and stare at your wall for a week and make a damn plan for your life and follow it as well as you can. Live the life that you truly desire to live. Build strong human connections with those around you and people who want the best for you, and live every day knowing you're living life on your terms. Get rich, get swole, and contemplate the meaning of life and death. And then, if you still feel like shit, then seek help. But please, until then, shut the fuck up and go do some push-ups.